Clemson has some questions to answer heading into the 2024 season, but I think they have all the answers they need on their roster. It's just a matter of certain guys stepping up and certain questions for certain positions being answered that make the team as a whole very good. We are taking a deep dive into the Clemson Tigers to see what should we expect from this team in 2024 and see how this team can succeed this season. Before we do that, though, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. It goes a long way in helping this series grow. This channel has grown tremendously since starting this series, and it's been really fun to watch. But again, that is not possible without all of you. And it's been really fun. And we're going to keep this going. We're going to keep this train going. And we're going to do that with the Clemson Tigers. Dabo Swinney is back for another year as the head coach of the Clemson Tigers. And I think it's funny when you look at when you're a consistent winner, sometimes a 9-win season to a lot of people seems disappointing. And it's funny because when you I think there's Clemson fans have a good understanding of if you go back before Dabo came here, there were some seasons where you would kill for a 9-win season. You would love to have a 9-win season. And part of that is just, complacency and expecting a national championship run. And there's reason to believe that this team could make that run in 2024 again. So while you might be frustrated, and that's understandable, I think that you should be excited about what this team has to offer this season. Obviously, the offense will be under the spotlight, under the microscope, if you will. And Garrett Riley obviously plays a huge role in that offense. Now, it's a group that underachieved last year, and there are some big questions that we'll dive into later. But I think that this group has a lot of potential in 2024. There's some young talent that could step up on both sides of the football, but the offense has a lot of potential to be even better next year. The defense should be, again, one of the better defenses in college football. Wes Goodwin does a really good job of getting these guys to play. Obviously, taking over for Brent Venables was always going to be tough, but now you have a guy who's a little bit more comfortable and knows what his personnel is going to be. Also had a surprise coming back, which was great for this defense. And so that's going to be really interesting to watch to see how he handles that because he's just as much a part of that equation and their success as Garrett Riley is. And then we dive into the transfer portal. They're not going to the jokes about the transfer portal are kind of old at this point. I don't really, they're kind of funny, but also like whatever. Dabo Swinney doesn't want to use the transfer portal. He has his own way of thinking, and I understand where he's coming from. I do. I get that he wants to build competition within, and I see where he's coming from. I think that they could benefit from using the transfer portal, but you know what? I'm obviously not a Division I head coach, so who cares? Losing some of the players they did obviously would make you think maybe you do want to replace some of those guys, but maybe they feel really good about their recruiting efforts. And when you look at what Clemson has done in the past, it's kind of easy to see why you'd think that way, that they're just fine. But losing certain players probably aren't great, but also I don't think there's a ton of talent on this key losses section that you feel like, oh, well, really we could have used in this year. Andrew Makuba is probably the only one that I'd say is a solid loss for this team, but I think you also have talent that can replace him, and you should feel just fine if you're Clemson. So again, not adding someone from the transfer portal feels like a missed opportunity more than anything. I mean, if you don't want to do that, that's obviously up to Dabo what he wants to do. But also, I think they do a good job of keeping guys in house and keeping the right players in place to be able to step up. And one of those players that's going to play a big role and is back for another year is Cade Klubnik. The quarterback obviously has been under the spotlight ever since he took over the starting quarterback position. And there obviously have been some ups and there obviously have been some downs. There's been plenty of things going on with Cade Klubnik that we've been paying attention to. And now he is back in what feels like a pivotal year for Clemson and this offense. Now, Cade Klubnik obviously plays a big role because he's going to touch the ball every single play. He is going to be a big reason why this team either succeeds or struggles. And the depth behind him probably is a little bit concerning, given that you have a freshman and Paul Tyson. I think that you have inexperience behind him, but at the same time, I think that they're banking on Cade taking a step. And it was definitely a learning curve. There's definitely going to be some bumps in the road, and that's not unexpected. You just really need to see him take a step forward. Garrett Riley is a great offensive mind. Cade has all the talent in the world to be able to make this offense go. And it's just going to come down to, can he put it all together? Can he figure out what needs to happen for this offense to succeed? And can he make smart decisions with the football? Certain things, picking up blitzers that are coming in, being able to read coverages. There are a lot of things that he can do to make himself better. And he has the talent to do it. Like I said, he is someone who knows how to make plays. It's not like his talent went away. It's just been a little bit of a transition. That's all. I don't think that he has a ton that he needs to really worry about in terms of being able to move the football down the field. It's just going to come down to whether or not he can learn from his mistakes and learn from his experience in 2023. And I think that he has done a really good job of just continuing to learn, continuing to figure out how to play the game and play the position. And it's just going to be fun to see what he can do after a full year of experience under the belt. No quarterback controversy. He was the guy, and he's going to be the guy again. So that's going to be really fun to watch. And the rushing attack next to him is really going to catch people's attention. You don't have Will Shipley. That obviously is going to probably hurt more than people realize, but also having Phil Maffa back is going to be huge as well. So I think that you get back a solid player that is going to be physical at 6'1", 230 pounds, someone who, like I said, is very solid, and you feel pretty good about having him back. The running back position might not have the most experience, but also I think that they're going to be really fun to watch. Jay Haynes is going to play a little bit of a bigger role. Redshirt freshman Jarvis Green is going to play a bigger role as well. And this is a group that finished 43rd running the football, even with Will Shipley. And that's something that needs to improve. Some of that is on the offensive line, but also the running backs have a lot to do with that as well. It's going to be fun to watch. I think that this group has a ton of potential to take a step forward. And that goes with, Klubnik, but also the running backs. And if those two groups can take steps forward, the offense as a whole is going to improve. But I'm excited about the potential of this offense. I think that they are looking to get back on top of the ACC after Florida State took over for a little bit. And they are going to be very motivated to improve. And part of that is what I think gives me excitement about Cade and what he can do, because he is playing kind of with the chip on his shoulder. Clemson, to some people, is kind of the second fiddle team. It's not true, but some people think that. And there's probably people in Tallahassee that definitely believe that. But this is a group that, yeah, there have been some rocky times lately. And now you're looking to, hey, we're looking to get back on the map. We are looking to get back to the top of where we belong, which is at the top of the ACC. And that's going to be a fun group to watch, a group that is playing motivated and playing with a different attitude. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. And that's huge for a guy like Cade Klubnik, but it's also huge for the offense. And the passing attack is going to have to prove its worth, but you have the right players in place to make that happen. When you look at the pass catchers, there's really no reason why Cade Klubnik should struggle again. You have certain players that are explosive. You have guys that have shown tremendous flashes in terms of explosiveness, in terms of being dynamic. So there's really not any questions about, do they have the right guys in place. Antonio Williams is back, only had 224 yards and 2 touchdowns last year, but he is someone who should have a big season if this passing attack is truly at the place that I think they're at. Tyler Brown had a big year last year, 531 yards and 4 touchdowns. He is going to be fun to watch as well. Cole Turner and a guy like Brian Wesco, Adam Randall should play rotational roles as well. So we'll see how they fit in, but those guys are set to play big roles as well. And they'll be really fun to watch. Again, it's going to come down to, does Cade have the chemistry with these guys? He's been throwing to a couple of them for a little while now, and others he has to obviously learn their tendencies and what they do in terms of route, how they handle certain routes and where they like to catch the ball, that kind of stuff. But there is not a shortage of options. There are definitely players that can step up and play right away, and they have returning talent that has seen the field quite a bit, and we've seen what their ceiling looks like. It's not like we don't know about certain guys. We know what Antonio Williams is capable of doing. We know what Tyler Brown is capable of doing. Those are two dynamic players that can be extremely explosive for this offense and can make life miserable for any team that's facing them. Guys like Jake Brinstool are back at tight end, 6'6", 230 pounds, 498 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think that he is one of those players that is a solid go-to guy. If you need someone to throw to, you can throw the ball up towards him, and he's probably going to come down to it because the guy that is trying to guard him is probably smaller than him. So that's a good option to have. He's not as physical as some other tight ends, but I think that this team knows what they have in him. They know what they have in their personnel, and they're going to utilize him as best as they can that matches his skill set, and not ask him to do a ton in terms of a blocker, but utilize him more as that wide tight end, that pass catching tight end. And that'll be fun to watch as well. The depth behind him is relatively inexperienced. Josh Sapp had 60 yards last year. You have a couple other guys that are looking to see the field a little bit more. So this is a team that is looking to take a step as a passing attack, a group as a whole. And part of that is going to be on the quarterback, but also you need to see those wide receivers get their quarterback time to make some nice throws and get open where there's not as many difficult opportunities awaiting Cade Klubnik and what he can do. And then we go to the offensive line. Everyone's obviously going to be talking about the offensive line. That being said, there's lots of experience on this group. There's plenty of talent to feel good about. You know that you have certain players coming back. Guys like Marcus Tate, Walter Parks, or Walker Parks, excuse me, and Blake Miller are back, and they have plenty of experience. Nearly 30 starts for all three of them. That's good experience that you want to have back. That is a group that knows what it takes to win football games. That's a group that's been successful, and that's a group that knows what's expected of them. Tristan Lay is coming in as well. 11 starts under his belt, 18 games of experience. Ryan Linthicum is taking on a new role, and playing center is going to be difficult no matter who you play for, but he has experience around him that will help him feel comfortable. They'll help him if he needs certain situations, certain checks to be able to call. But I think that all eyes are going to be on him early in his career and early in the season, because they want this offense to do well. And part of that is going to be on the center position just as much as it's going to be on Cade Klubnik. There's a lot of different pieces that I don't want to call them all X factors, but there's definitely pieces that are going to be interesting in terms of how they affect the game, how they affect the game plan, and how they affect what Clemson wants to do on a play-to-play basis. Behind those guys, there is some experience. You have Dietrich Pennington, who has 12 games under his belt. Trent Howard has 3 games, or 3 starts, and 26 games of experience. So you have certain players that are good role players. Then you have 2 sophomores in Colin Sadler and Harris Sewell. You have redshirt freshman in Ian Reed. Again, I think that the offensive line at times for Clemson could be seen as the part that needs to take a step forward. But also, you've done a good job of recruiting where you continue to have offense options compete for starting spots. They have guys that are going to push the talent in practice, and that's really exciting. You have to tip your hat to the coaching staff for bringing in certain players. Again, this is a team that has done a great job of recruiting and bringing in the right guys to either play right away or compete with the guys that are going to start, so that when it's their turn to be thrust into the starting spot, they are ready. And the offense needs to have an infusion of excitement. And if they're able to do that, you're looking at a group that should be a lot better in 2024. The defense is going to be one of those groups that you probably have less concerns about. You at least should have less concerns about, I should say. And the defensive line is going to play a huge role. And there's already plenty of buzz surrounding this group. And this is a group that is very hungry to prove themselves and ready to show the world that, yes, we've had really talented teams in the past and we've had really talented defensive lines. But this one is going to also push for that excitement as well. A guy like Peter Woods has been kind of on everyone's radar for a little while now. He's finally showing what he can do, and he is going to be pretty terrifying. I mean, he's 6'2", 315 pounds, and they are going to slide him out to end and utilize him there. They could also put him at tackle. You have a very versatile weapon that is terrifying at one position, but now you use him at multiple. He is someone that has a bright future, someone who has an NFL future. And oh, yeah, he's opposite of TJ Parker. So just when you think, oh, hey, we don't really have to worry about Peter Woods because we can just let the other guy. Nope, TJ Parker's equally as terrifying, but for different reasons. 6'3", 255 pounds. He is someone who I think you're expecting big things once again. And it's kind of one of those things where you have to kind of pick your poison if you're facing Clemson. And that's something we've heard with the defensive line for a while now, because that's how good Clemson has been. This is a group that, oh, you can't really let Peter Woods do his thing because he's going to hurt you. Oh, well, okay, we'll just send help his way. Okay, well, now you're leaving TJ Parker one-on-one with the tackle. And then, oh yeah, if you send help to both of them, Demonte Capehart and Peyton Page are going to destroy you. So you have guys that, while Capehart and Page don't have as much experience or production as those other two guys, they are ready to prove their worth. Capehart had 15 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. Page had 10 tackles and a half tackle for loss. So Page is the most inexperienced of the group, but this is a group that is ready to prove their worth and ready to show that they are going to be alphas in this conference. And when you watch the film, it's easy to see why. Now, the depth behind them is probably a little less in terms of what other teams might have, but you also have, at defensive end, you have Cade Kenhoff at 15 tackles, Jaheim Lawson, 2 tackles, AJ Hoffler is 4 tackles. So not as much experience. But when you look at what this team has done and what this coaching staff has done, you almost give them the benefit of the doubt at the defensive line positions because of what they've done in the past. Behind Capehart and Page, you have Vic Burley, who's a redshirt freshman. You have Caden Story, a sophomore, and you have veteran Trey Williams back. Trey could play a big role as well. And also, you just have really good size all across the defensive line. So if you need to stop the run, you're probably feeling pretty good about what you have coming back. Page, Capehart, Woods, and even Trey Williams could all be on the field at the same time. And you're looking at some really good size to be able to stop teams on a consistent basis. And that's going to help out the guys behind them. Not that the linebackers need any help, but that's really huge to get things started up front. The front seven is going to be really fun to watch. And this unique system is going to be interesting because you can utilize so many different looks, so many different personnel sets, and so many different setups. Barrett Carter's return to college football was really surprising. I think a lot of people expected him to go to the NFL, a potential first round pick, maybe looking to solidify his draft stock, decides to come back to Clemson. And that's huge. Clemson fans were elated to hear that he was coming back. And now he gets to be the leader of what is a very talented group. 62 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss last year. Very athletic player, very disruptive player, and someone that's going to set the tone along with that defensive line for Clemson. That is something that Clemson really likes about having him back, is that he is a good example. He leads by example, and he's going to get everyone else in place and now takes on that leadership role to get everybody else back in where they need to go and in position. And having him back is a huge win for Clemson. This is a defense that, again, expects to be really good. I think the linebackers might have more questions had Barrett Carter not come back. That being said, a guy like Wade Wudas and Khalil Barnes, those are two guys that are kind of coming into their own. Obviously, when you lose a guy like Jeremiah Trotter, it's going to thrust someone into the starting role that maybe wasn't ready last year, but has to be this year. Those are two guys that will get first crack at it. I name that everyone is really excited to watch is Sammy Brown. Sammy Brown is probably going to play at some point. It's just a matter of how soon. He's a very talented player. The 5-star is ready to make some noise early and often, and I would be more surprised if we don't see him than if we do. He is someone who has the talent to play right away, someone who can make Clemson's life a lot easier and gives them an option that will push the starters for time. You also have Kobe McLeod and Jamal Anderson as the other guys that could be in that rotation. Nobody's really taking Barrett Carter's spot unless he needs a breather for whatever reason or if he gets hurt, but everything else is up for grabs. And that's going to be a group that is expected to do a lot, expected to take on more challenges. And it'll be fun to see how they respond to those challenges. How does Barrett Carter get everybody else up to speed? How is he able to help them in their games and take their games to the next level? That is going to be a big key for that linebacker group. Now, the secondary has plenty of talent. And yeah, we talked about losing Andrew Makuba before, but I also like where this group is at. Avion Terrell and Jaden Lucas are going to play the cornerback positions, different levels of experience. So that'll be interesting to see how they handle that, how each of them is ready for their unique challenges. RJ Mickens is back at the safety position, a veteran who has plenty of experience and can help these other guys get up to speed. You also have Sherrod Coville, and you also have good talent behind the two safeties starters. Colin Griffin, 11 tackles and 2 interceptions last year. Tyler Venables is a veteran who knows how this group wants to play and knows what is expected. He'll be part of that as well. So you don't have the most experience per se, but you have plenty of talent to be able to utilize it and be able to make life easier for this defense as a whole. Now, it helps having the defensive line that Clemson has. That makes life very easy on a pass defense that was eighth last year. Part of that is the secondary. Part of that is also going to be the guys up front. There's another freshman that's coming in that's going to play a role. Corian Gibson is someone to keep an eye on as the future of Clemson's secondary. Shelton Lewis had 7 tackles last year, 2 interceptions. So again, you have a good mix of new guys to experienced. So this is like I said, this is a group that is going to have plenty of eyeballs on it. The defensive line appears to be the most set of this defense, but you also have plenty of options at the linebackers and secondary levels as well. So the second and third levels have some work to do, but also you kind of trust the consistency of this team, and what Clemson has been very good at has been the defensive side of the ball. So that'll be fun to see how those guys respond to those unique challenges. Now, when you look at what the schedule has, you got to buckle up. It is, you got to have your foot on the gas right off the bat. Yes, the over under is 10.5 wins, which speaks to the excitement surrounding this program, but can you shock enough people? I think that when you look at ceiling versus floor, this is a group that I don't know if they can beat Georgia. That's probably my biggest question. I know Clemson fans will feel like they can beat Georgia. I just think that Georgia is so talented and on another level, and Clemson has more questions than Georgia. So it feels like the ceiling is 11-1. That being said, I don't really know if I see more than 2 losses. So a 10-2 floor, that feels like very narrow ceiling to floor, but that's just kind of speaks to the consistency of this team. I think I'll put the floor at 9-3 just to make things simple. But again, I don't expect them to lose a ton. The losable games, if you ask anyone, are going to be Georgia, NC State, Florida State, and then after that, you probably have to make a really compelling argument for South Carolina, depending on if they have 2 losses going into the Virginia Tech game, that could also be a loss. But that being said, if this team puts it all together, the Georgia game is going to be very interesting. They also get NC State at home, so that's not as daunting as going to NC State and having to play there. Trip to Florida State. We'll see what Florida State looks like, but you also get them early in the season. Then if you're playing with enough momentum, the Louisville game, Virginia Tech game, and the South Carolina game don't really scare you if you're a Clemson fan. So there's not a ton to be worried about. There's not a ton that's super concerning. It's really more just like unexpected. You're not shocked by anything that's on your schedule. You know who you're going to have to play in the ACC. You know that Georgia's on the schedule. So it's just a matter of you got to buckle up and get ready to go. Clemson has the talent to be able to make a run, especially towards the college football playoff, maybe even towards the national championship. It's just a matter of certain positions finding those new starters and then certain starters finding the confidence. Cade Klubnik finding his confidence, finding a way to have this offense take another step. And if they can do that, Clemson is going to be a very dangerous team in 2024.